The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. Welcome to the webinar. This is Roger Royce, founder of the Royce Law Firm, a business tax and corporate law firm with offices in Northern and Southern California. For today's webinar, we're going to take a little bit different direction, mostly south, towards Latin America. Today's topic is Latin America Special Economic Zones. And we have with us today Mario Tucci from MVD Consulting in Uruguay, and he is going to describe the South American Free Trade Zones, including special economic zones, how they're adapting, why you should jump in, what kind of companies should be considering the free trade zone, and what the benefits are to you as a U.S. company in operating in a Latin American free trade zone. As is usual with our webinar series, you should have a dialog box in the upper right-hand corner of your screen where you can enter questions, and towards the end of Mario's presentation, we'll try to address or answer all those questions, or you can always email him directly. I want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded. You will find it in the iTunes store as a podcast. It will also be on YouTube and on Royce University, where you can also access the slides and the materials, and Mario will give you his contact information as well. So with that, I would like to turn the panel over to Mario.
Great, thank you very much, Roger. So good morning, everyone. My name is Mario Tucci, and I will be helping you with this presentation today. It's a pleasure to be partnering with Royce Law. We really appreciate the chance. You know, when you think in free trade zones, and you have many of them in the United States, you are probably connecting yourself with either industrial parks or storage areas or logistic areas. So probably if you came to the seminar, this is maybe what you are also looking for in Latin America. But the truth is that we will try to also tell you that there is a new set of free zones uses in Latin America which are more connected to the service industry. And that will be basically the topic of the seminar. We're going to talk about how these special economic zones are in the region. We're also obviously going to talk about some tax benefits. And then we're going to move into how they are transforming themselves into service centers and locations that companies now are using to set up service centers to cater customers all around the globe. Basically, just as a reference and to make sure that we are all talking about the same thing, a special economic zone is also referred as a free trade zone. Usually, that's a geographical location. It's a delimited perimeter in where taxes and other laws are different from what the general regime is within a country, and usually they include a lot of incentives to reduce the general tax, but they add, for example, in many cases, suspension of nationwide monopolies, or some benefits for foreign employees working there, or benefits to bring merchandise or products from outside of these borders into the free zone, etc. You're going to have throughout the world, many special economic zones. In fact, it's calculated that probably 30% of all the trade in the world is generated on a free trade zone or a special economic zone. So, you have them everywhere in probably all countries throughout the world. Having said that, we will, again, focus on those special economic zones that are primarily attracting service operations. And so why service operations and not logistics or industrial? So we believe if you look at Latin America and the not just the hype, but the reality that Latin America is a very good, growing business market to many American companies. They are increasingly performing business here, finding new partners, finding innovation in Latin America, etc. They, at the same time, they are balancing and trying to understand what else is possible to do from Latin America, vis-a-vis with what happens from Asia and what has happened for many years coming from Asia with regards to the service market. So we are going to show you that it's as important, Latin America, to create revenue for your company. It could be also as key and critical to make your company more agile and lower your costs. So we're going to fly over Latin America and see what it has to offer, and why we believe that Latin America will grow as a service provider. Number one, Latin America is a fraction of the total global service industry. We have around 500 million people living in this region, and we only generate 9% of the total service industry. Compare that to 100 million people in the Philippines, but they already capture 10% of the industry. So just by comparing population, one region to the other, the region can grow 5 times and reach whatever Philippines produces today. So just from a mathematical point of view, it's obvious that there is going to be more business in the offshore industry. The theme in the service industry is that you lack talent. So the industry moves where talent is available. And in this numbers that I told you, it's obvious that Latin America will get much more attention. Number two, customers usually expect faster actions and expect minimum bad surprises. So the more you come closer to them, the more you will generate long-standing customers. So Latin America and the U.S. share obviously the time zones, but also we share a lot of cultural affinity. So as the business is more real-time, we believe that there are going to be many more connections between Latin America and the U.S. because, from a time zone perspective, we are exactly or more or less on the same time zone. But also from a cultural point of view, we are much closer than other cultures. And that means that your cycle to bring a good solution into the market shortens. And then with regards to keeping costs down, everyone is under pressure to make sure that the costs are minimum. But also you need to work on environments that are friendly so that people like to work at. Latin America has many opportunities, a great diversity in where you can set up your operations, and usually many of these sites are considering one of the best places to live. So Latin America as a whole is a region that usually is very nice to deal with, very easy to deal with. And finally, leading companies are already taking advantage of that. So you're going to see some examples today about what other companies are doing. And that tells that, smarter companies are already establishing themselves in Latin America. And you should make sure that you understand why they are here if you are still not here. So let's start this journey from Mexico. Mexico is obviously a very important partner country to the U.S. and has been for many years become a factory for the U.S. with regards to goods. Mexico lately has done a lot of investments in procedures to also create this what they call technology parks. In Mexico, the special economic zones are mostly logistic, so the service environment happens usually in technology parks. How do you get benefits from a tax point of view? Well, the truth is that you're going to go get more benefits from incentives that the country has to make sure that companies establish themselves within these technology parks. So these technology parks are not free trade zones. Usually the tax regime is exactly the same as anywhere outside of the borders of that zone. But the truth is that by working together with universities and the government, you're going to get a lot of incentives to establish yourself there. Not to mention that obviously, if you are in a park and you see a picture for an example there, you're going to have an ecosystem supporting you. Mexico has done a very good job to specialize zones within Mexico, from a biotechnology or software development, also digital imaging and so on are there all around Mexico. So you need to take a look and consider that not only your fridge can be manufactured in Mexico, maybe the technology beyond the fridge can also be manufactured there at much lesser cost than the U.S. So this is as an example. The other country that comes in this list is Panama. Panama has been an ally of the U.S. for many, many years, and now is expanding quite rapidly the service industry. Panama, it's a big free zone itself. By the way, they have one of the largest free zones in the world, which is the free zone of Colón. This is a brutal, big shopping center in which you can go and get any products from any part of the world and then transact on those products free of taxes. But what we have seen in Panama is that they also would like to generate employment, and you generate good employment by setting up service centers. So this Ciudad del Saber that you have there, it's an example of a park that is tax-free, in that it allows companies to set up in very nice environment by the canal, but also in this particular case in Panama, and you don't see other examples in Latin America so often, they allow within the borders of the free zone housing and other entertainment facilities. So and also Panama will help you bring foreign employees, as many as you want. There is no cap on the foreign employees, so you can have 100% of your population within that service center foreign, and the guys in charge of the Ciudad del Saber will help you with all the visas and other processes. So Panama, is pushing a lot. Obviously, you will need to consider availability of talent, and this is why they allow foreigners to work there. But you see there a nice pool and a nice environment and a nice climate that Panama has, and then zero taxes, and obviously the cost of talent is much less than what is in the U.S. So Panama it's a very nice case, and growing in all senses. Maybe you're surprised to see Nicaragua in my list here, but we believe that Central America has many opportunities. It's almost a greenfield. Those are countries that they have the appetite to get investors in, so they are doing the right things with regards to the laws, the infrastructure, the promotion agencies, etc. Nicaragua has a very good focus on special economic zones. They do have a dedicated government agency that will help you with establishing the company, getting people in, setting yourself there. And in this case, the tax exemption is not as easy as Panama, because Panama basically is zero for the whole contract. In the Nicaragua case, they have a, it's a ladder there, so you're going to start with 100% exemption and then move after so many years, depending on the type of industry and also depending on the region that you have within Nicaragua, you're going to move to lower incentives, but still, quite competitive. In particular, because people in Nicaragua is labor there it's very cheap, very reasonable, and English is outstanding. When you find those people, they speak 100% fluent American English, which is something that you would welcome. Also, with regards to connectivity and facilities, and I'm showing a picture of one, you're going to see quite good tools there for you to work. A lot of call centers, by the way, right now in Nicaragua. Costa Rica has been an obvious contender in this space with regards to service-oriented special economic zones. Costa Rica gets a lot of attention from the U.S. tourism, and that means that more Americans, understand Costa Rica, and they go there, the ecotourism, etc. So all that helped Costa Rica reach very important milestones. Intel is producing chips from Costa Rica, is by far the largest exporter of the country, and they started within a free zone. But the good thing about the Intel case is that while they started just manufacturing chips, today if you go to their jobs search, they're also looking for design engineers, electronic engineers, software engineers, and other, because Intel is also moving service facilities there, and they also have a finance and accounting outsourcing operation in Costa Rica. So it's a very good example. With regards to benefits, again, very similar to Nicaragua. Somebody copied someone. I don't know if Nicaragua copied Costa Rica or the other way around, but they are almost sister regimes. And then also you're gonna pay an annual fee based on the space that you're using. But still incentives are very good, and you need to make sure that you understand all of that. Going a little bit south, Colombia is my next location. If you look at Colombia in the history obviously had many problems with regard to security and sustainability of their regimes, etc. Now I believe that they have this in the rear view mirror, but still, it's not an issue today. And Colombia is growing as a destination for, they just signed a free trade agreement with the U.S., so there is a lot of things going on there. They do have many free trade zones, special economic zones around the country. Many of them are logistics and industrial. Some of them are a mix of those, and you're gonna get a flat tax of 15%, which is probably the half of the regular tax situation. In the case of Colombia, it's interesting because they allow you to also sell to the local market. Usually, these special economic zones are there to generate employment and give companies an incentive based on their export capability. So they don't want them, obviously, to compete with the local market, because that creates a situation in which you have people within the free zones paying less than people outside of the free zones. But Colombia decided that they will allow also to sell into the local markets. To your right, that's a still to be implemented free zone in Cali. So you not only have Bogota as the main location for free zones, which is the middle picture, but also you have other cities that are coming up quite rapidly. That implementation is what a company called Sudamerica, which is also based in Uruguay, showed to the world, which is going to become a very nice service and logistic technology park / special economic zone. So Colombia, it's always nice to consider. It's a beautiful country, and we see a lot of future there. Our next country, and obviously you cannot skip Brazil. From a free zone point of view, obviously, Brazil has in the Amazons the Manaus industrial park, which produces machinery and others for any customer throughout the world. and they have done this for many, many years. And very similar to Mexico, they are developing tech parks that, in some cases they do have some incentives. The problem with Brazil is that the complexity of the tax regime there and the labor laws is so high that probably you're getting some incentives, but on the other hand, you will need to deal with a lot of bureaucracy and continuous changes. If you subscribe yourself to a law firm in Brazil that they let you know the changes in those laws, you're going to get probably 5 emails per day in changes, this law and that law, etc. So while we still see Brazil very interesting, we do believe that the domestic market is more important than the international market for them. So they are building these technology parks together with universities, and this is great, but we still have not seen a lot of movements into the export market. Obviously, if you plan to develop yourself in Brazil, this technology parks could be a good location to establish your service operations. And then Uruguay, which is a country I'm calling right now from. Uruguay has, it's a very tiny country like Nicaragua, so the country needs to look outwards to get new revenue and opportunities and job opportunities. So Uruguay has developed free zones for many, many years, and you see some pictures here that very nice locations, nice buildings, nice infrastructure. And also the law in Uruguay, it's a zero tax. So you don't pay any corporate tax, you don't pay any value-added tax, you don't pay any import duty taxes, you don't pay any dividend taxes whatsoever for the duration of your contract with a free zone. So very aggressive regime, probably similar to the Panama regime. And Uruguay has proved to be able to set up quite large centers, and I'm going to talk a little bit about them in the next slides. So these are the countries that I selected. Some people may ask, what about Chile, what about Argentina, and what about other countries, Ecuador, etc. I believe that all those are very valid countries, and all they have tools for you to lower your tax or to increase your incentives to come in. But we see probably the list that I just showed, the one that is more active on the research side, companies asking questions about these countries more than the others that I left outside. But for no reason, that doesn't mean that you should not consider them and get more information about them. So this is a checklist that I created. So what do you need to keep in mind when you select a special economic zone for the service industry? So it's not just the tax. There are many other issues that you need to consider if you would like to expand your opportunities within the region. And obviously this serves no matter if this is Latin America or the entire world, but make sure that it's a nice facility, make sure that you understand what is going on, for example, with foreign people that would like to work on that location, make sure that this is a visa-friendly country, make sure that you understand your setup time. Don't believe that this is a 24-hour company and this is it. Consider that in many countries you need authorization by different regulators. Also, you need to understand how you're going to send money and retrieve money from that operation, what languages they have, and other things that I hope you find easy to understand here. But they are critical, and you should make sure that you understand them fully before you go deeper into a decision. So let's talk about some tax benefits. Again, when you consider a free zone, the first thing that any consultant will tell you is the taxes. But taxes is something that it's a picture today and doesn't guarantee anything for the future. So what I mean is that whenever you decide to go there into a free trade zone, a special economic zone, great, you're going to save some taxes, but will you be able to execute? So you need to also understand that as countries, there is a correlation between the special economic zones and the service industry export, and therefore job generation. Usually countries are very interested that you come. So if you have an operation in, say, in Asia, and you would like to move it to a better time zone, so then you check this special economic zones regimes, and you decide this country, because of the checklist that I provided, then come closer to, for example, the investment promotion agencies, and maybe they will offer you, on top of the tax incentives, other incentives. Maybe they can help you with the training process, maybe they can help you with the first visit to the country, maybe they can help you by making sure that you have the right consulting firms, supporting your setup, etc. Also, please understand that in the cases of free zones that are zero tax, which is the Panama and the Uruguay, that will release yourself from tax engineering. And the tax engineering story is usually very high cost engineering. You need consultants that are usually charging a lot of money to lower your tax situation. Well, if you're paying zero tax, you don't need those consultants. And maybe in the core there is some people that live on that. But to be honest, if you're embedded in a free trade zone that you're not paying any taxes, the relief that comes by knowing that you can do anything without the need to figure out the tax engineering is very good. And that tells what that gives you is a much more agility in performing business. Then at the same time, the special economic zones, they are trying to become very nice locations for you to work at. So since they need to compete for talent, and they need to provide their customers, the companies that come and establish themselves there, they need to provide a good location. They usually set up environments that are state-of-the-art, very high-end facilities, easy to reach, they look nice. So people, young people especially, they tend to prefer to work, if they can choose, within a country, and you are established within a special economic zone. Usually people will prefer to work there because they feel different. They feel that they belong to something that is much more modern and globalized than a local firm. So if you have a chance between a local environment or a special economic zones, these special economic zones are always giving you an extra handicap, because they have created very nice environments for people to work at. Again, I'm stressing the fact that the special economic zones will provide you a very good opportunity to think if you shouldn't relocate whatever central functions you have, either around the world or in the U.S. or in Asia, to a region that is growing, but also has the right infrastructure to support global business. So let's talk about some examples of that and what we have seen happening in the region with regards to the information technology outsourcing and the business process outsourcing. So, for example, suppose that you're an American company and you already have business going on in Latin America and you are doing great, but you would like to have a better efficiency and control of your costs. Okay, time to consolidate. So where do you consolidate these functions? Let's say marketing, finance, HR support, sales support, service support, IT support, etc. Well, special economic zones will give you an edge, will give you an extra value because of the lower tax and all what we already spoke about. So that's an example. The other example is if you already have an operation in the United States, and maybe you have a need to support a growing demand from the Hispanic market. So the Hispanic market obviously matches Latin America, and moving some of these operations to Latin America instead of moving them to Asia will give you the benefit of the time zone, the benefit of these incentives, and the benefit of a much better cultural affinity, obviously language. My third selection here is Brazil. Brazil, everyone wants to go to Brazil. Next year they have the Soccer World Cup, then they're going to have the Olympics, but also they are flooded in oil and nice beaches, by the way. So everyone wants to come to Brazil. Brazil is on fire right now, but costs are prohibitive. You can, in some locations of Sao Paulo, you are today paying $100 per square meter in a lease, in an office, which is like $1,000 per square feet. So it's totally crazy, the cost that they are facing. So many companies are trying to serve Brazil from outside of Brazil. And that has been the case. Amazon recently established itself in Brazil, and the customer care support is not provided from Brazil. It's provided from outside of Brazil in perfect Portuguese. So again, if you are trying to deal with Brazil, if you already have business in Brazil, think twice if you can lower your costs by removing centers and setting them outside. Beware of withholding taxes, and this is tricky. If Brazil needs to pay for services outside, they will keep 40%. So you need to, here in this case, you will need to work on tax engineering. My fourth option here is what I call follow the sun centers. So if you already have a support center, let's say in Asia, one in Europe, and in Latin America comes perfectly to fit the 24/7 regime. So you do handover from one center to the other. You can do this within Latin America very easily, and it's a great example of increasing your customer care abilities, either for internal customers or external customers. Procurement centers. Free zones, since they impact you with lower taxes, that means that whatever you purchase and sell, it will be impacted with lesser cost. So, all the procurement centers, if you put them in these special economic zones, you're going to get twice the benefits of the offshore cost advantage, and at the same time the benefit of lower income situation. Then ITO operations. This is a typical one. Say that you need a support information technology center. Great talent available in Latin America. All the technologies are here, and very easy to deal with time zone. So there are a lot of companies from all around the world operating from Latin America to cater American customers. Then trading operations. Let's say that you're a trader and you are in the oil industry or you are in the agribusiness industry. Any of that, you can put your team operating from within a free zone, and that means a lot of benefits from a tax point of view. But as I said before of this, anything that you deal and do there will always be tax-free or tax incentive. So you don't need to, become crazy every time you change a trading situation or a trade style. You still will benefit from lower taxes. Finally, treasury desks. We have seen this in some countries. The move of money has become an issue in Latin America. There are countries that impose very strict and sometimes prohibitive regulations to move money in and out. So what do you do if you have a business there in those countries? And then you need to pay or honor foreign affairs. So what we have seen is a move into particularly those two countries, Uruguay and Panama, as treasury centers. And again, if you set them within a free zone, much better for you. So those are the themes that I had in mind, and you know, there are many other examples of things that you can do from this locations. So I have to finish some case studies here, so you can get a better idea what these companies are doing, and then also you can compare yourself. You know, am I doing this? Why they are doing that? So, for example, Infosys, which is a heavyweight of the Indian outsourcing business, and a leading case, a worldwide leading case, decided to open operations in Costa Rica, Mexico, and Brazil. And whenever they can, they go to special economic zones. So they mainly serve the American market from here, and they are doing IT and finance and accounting jobs, you know, type of work. Kimberly-Clark, very interesting case in Colombia. One of their, they have 4 what they call global innovation centers, 2 in the U.S., 1 in Korea, and 1 in Colombia now. In that one in Colombia is also embedded in a special economic zone. And what they do is they try to develop new products or localize in big manner products that will allow them to capture more market. Diageo, Johnny Walker whiskey owner, you know, probably you know them by that brand, has a financial back office support in Colombia. They are using a third party. They are using a provider, which is Genpact. That's a former General Electric insourcer, and they're using this base from Colombia, and they will centralize slowly, but they will centralize and try to centralize finance and accounting operations for their worldwide function, and they operate from a free zone in Colombia. This is nice, a tiny company called PatentVest. They run out from Nicaragua. They are a free zone by themselves. I didn't mention that, but in many countries you can get a regulator to approve your own company as a self-contained special economic zone. So instead of going to a park that you will get the benefits of the tax, you can be named free zone. So PatentVest is running on that case, and what they do is they manage a patent portfolio for companies. So if you have your patents, these guys will keep those patents alive, but also they will give you market intelligence with regards to which company has the most patents on this, and you know, what can I do with if I need to purchase a patent or get a hold of patents. So they will help on all those type of efforts, and they are doing this for a company that they have in the U.S. So they're not doing this for any other customer. But this is a very nice combination of incredible talent that they have in Managua, Nicaragua. Some of them PhDs, very low cost, and the benefit of the tax incentives. Caterpillar has a quite large HR service center in Panama. They are managing everything that has to do with HR throughout the hemisphere, and they are also right now opening a training center for the region. And finally, Towers Watson, an HR consultant, established some many years ago a research center in a free zone in Uruguay, and they are servicing Europe and also the United States in providing back office activities for them with very good talent, economists working there. So I try to show you some examples that are, you know, very tactical, but some other examples that are companies that are really squeezing a lot of value from the region in critical activities that are, you know, critical for the businesses. So you see, again, companies doing tactical work from the special economic zones and some examples of very complex activities running from here. So just quick about us, this is what we do for a living. We provide advisory and support for companies trying to establish themselves in Latin America. We also help them implement whatever they decided to do, and also we try to work together with those companies in making sure that this is the best possible implementation. We work on many countries in the region. So basically, Roger, that's my presentation. So maybe we can go into answering questions from the audience.
Okay, thank you very much, Mario. So one question we have relates to the nature of the support ecosystem in Latin America. For example, what can foreigners who place personnel in these countries expect in the way of schools, medical, police, that sort of infrastructure? Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yes, very good question, by the way, and very relevant because, we are talking about people industry. So if you cannot convince your top people to support the center, that center will not work. So obviously there is a variety of support available in Latin America, and I think that in some instances it's top-notch, in some other instances it's a work in progress situation. So for example, healthcare, Latin America is really doing good, and you see a lot of similarity with the United States type of healthcare. You do have healthcare medical insurance programs that will cover you in Latin America, or if not, much cheaper, you can get them within Latin America. Education institutions, many countries follow the American type of, even with the dates, they start in mid-year and they finish the next year. In some other countries, school starts in March and goes all the way to in February, March, and goes all the way to December. You're going to find American schools and British schools almost in all countries that I mentioned. So I don't see an issue there. With regards to community type of things, etc., there are always communities available and embassies available to help you. We have, to be honest, we have, in the majority of the cases, what we have experienced is that once company decide on a location, there is somebody within that company that really would like to be in that location, meaning would like to experiment that location. And it's easy to fall in love with Latin America once you are there. The problem with Latin America is that for most Americans, Latin America is Mexico. So, it still needs to be discovered. But once you discover that location, you fall in love, and people stay to, stay there for a long time. So then with regards to visa requirements, in many countries it's quite easy to get. And then your personal income, because I didn't talk about that, I talk about corporate income. But many countries, they have agreements with the United States for personal income taxes. Some do not, but in the majority of the cases, I don't see an issue with taxes. So overall, I will give 8 out of 10. And once you reach the region, you're gonna fall in love and also be very happy because your costs are going to be much less than what you're experimenting right now in the U.S.
Mario, on that last point, what can people expect in terms of relative cost compared to some of the other outsourced destinations in the world?
Yeah, so the competitor here is India, although India wages are going up. So if you compare with India, Latin America, it's more expensive in general. There are some exceptions to this. So this is why the free zones, the special economic zones, will help you a little bit because they will keep your costs down. I would say, Roger, that between India and Latin America, probably Latin America is 15% higher, 20% higher. Then you have the advantages of the time zone. So I can tell you about the cost, but what you should also focus is the agility that you bring, because one thing is to send a service requirement to Asia 2 times instead of sending that service requirement 1 time to Latin America because they understood you quickly. So what net cost may be important, you need to factor in the efficiency of the systems, and we believe that being on a closer time zone, it makes very good sense for current type of business. There is always back office support, there is always non-real-time support, and stay with that in Asia, but put your critical business support and others in Latin America.
Yeah, so I've noticed that most of the companies that you've outlined here have moved service operations or established service operations in these countries. And for many of them, it's for servicing process for U.S. customers. Do you see that in other parts of the world as well? Do you see service operations in Latin America designed targeting India, Asia, Europe, other parts of the world?
No, what we see is Europe, yes. Remember that Latin America, it's mainly from European immigration. So you have a lot of connecting points to Europe. So one of the companies that I mentioned, Towers Watson, they support the UK operation of Tower Watson there. And we are still within the reasonable limits, time zone limits with Europe. So you can manage both regions, the US and Europe, from a central location, which is very convenient. Yeah, it's also true that some service providers from Europe are coming to Latin America because they are interested in the Latin America market, and they are establishing themselves in these special economic zones. So yes, I would say that Europe and the United States are mainly the customers. We do not have a lot of interaction with Asia or Africa right now, but providers, obviously, if you take a look at Indian providers, most of the largest ones are already in Latin America. In some cases, big time. Tata Consultancy Services, a company from India, they have 8,000 people plus in Latin America, and in many cases embedded within special economic zones.
Okay, Mario, we got a question. Somebody is interested in, like, your comments specifically on Argentina. Is that something you can speak to?
Yeah, Argentina, it's a lovely country, and sometimes they do good in soccer. And to be honest, right now, the business environment there in Argentina is quite complex. There are restrictions in currency flows. You need to deal with the Argentinian pesos. Inflation is rampant, and it has been an issue in overall cost. So once a precious rock in Latin America, something that everyone wanted to go, is now becoming a place that people are concerned about. So within the near term, we believe that this is still going to shake a little bit. In the long term, Argentina has fantastic talent, very sharp people, and you see them all around Latin America. So we believe that if you can hold a position in Latin America, in Argentina, sorry, it's good to do that. But for the short term, you're going to have some big challenges. And by the way, for example, all the customer care service industry, also known as call center, has left Argentina. Mostly, they lost 60% of the industry in the hands of Peru. And by the way, another country that I didn't mention, Peru. So Argentina remains challenging, and you will need to stay alert how things move. But for the next 4 or 5 years, it's going to still be challenging.
So we have a comment here from the Santander Free Trade Zone Offshoring and Outsourcing Park in Colombia that adds that you can find in the same free trade zone agencies of financial institutions, HR consultants, tax bureaus, universities, etc. You'll find all of that within the same free trade zones. Following up on your Argentina comment, somebody asked, is there a relatively high inflation rate in Argentina? Is that one of the challenges?
Well, inflation is, inflation is probably upwards of 20. It depends because, officially, if you go to their official agency, government agency, they are showing 8% inflation, 10% inflation, but the truth is that you go to the labor agreements and they have 25, 27% annual increases. And then the dollar pegged to the peso is officially at probably 4 pesos, but then they have parallel dollar, so that means a parallel market, a black market, which right now it's twice as much. So, very shaky market, unfortunately, sometimes similar to Venezuela, quite complex to deal with. And it's a pity because, there's a great talent there. And having said that, there are very large operations there. ExxonMobil has a very large service center in Argentina, and so do many other very large and respected firms. So it depends on how large your company is to, travel through this storm. But for starters, I will advise, hold a little bit.
Right. So I want to pause and point out to people that this webinar is being recorded. You can find it again on iTunes, in the podcast store, on YouTube under Royce Law, and of course on Royce University in our webinar section. The slides and materials will be available on Royce University, or you could contact Mario directly on the information on the screen. One question that comes up whenever looking for a BPO destination or any place like that, the question of language usually comes up. How widespread and widely spoken is English in some of the Latin American destinations?
Yeah, very good again. I believe that, in most countries, English has been an issue, and there are many efforts from governments and private entities to increase the amount of people available for English. But it varies because, it depends if you need a customer care agent or a software programmer. A software programmer may not need the skills and levels of English that you may need to be on the phone. Having said that, Central America looks very good because of the proximity to the U.S. and a lot of people coming in and out. In the southern countries, it's a little bit more challenge. Brazil, for example, to find an English-speaking person is challenging. So you see, for example, the IT industry in Brazil creating their own programs and putting money so people are more incentive to go into these classes. So in general, I believe that people are available. Some countries it you may need to put more time. It's not obvious that everyone will speak English. Having said that, remember that 30% of the U.S. economy now, is being consumed by Hispanics. So there is a growing trend, and you all know that, about Hispanics in the U.S., and many of them may prefer also to speak Spanish. So while it may be an additional cost to get the English-speaking person, that same person will speak Spanish. So you have like a 30 handicap there, because for those that speak Spanish, that person is going to be perfect. So it's a mix. What we have seen is many companies establishing their own training centers, and also companies setting up bonuses for people that achieve certain levels of English ability. And we also see governments doing that, incentive people to come online, test themselves, and if they, pass certain levels, they will incentive them via money or helping them on the training. So this is a continuous effort in the region.
Right. Okay, well, I want to Thank you, Mario. I'd like to point out to the audience that we do have several more webinars coming up. We have 2 tax-related webinars, one on taxation in divorce, the other one on taxation of property transactions. We will have a webinar coming up on sustainable investing, and then lastly on the schedule is a webinar presentation on new law firm and legal service provision models. So it'll be very interesting. Again, thank you, Mario from MVD Consulting in Uruguay. Contact information is on the screen. Feel free to reach out. And we are going to now conclude the webinar.
Thank you.